My name is Jonah, and I was an architect. But I didn't just design buildings, I designed my life. My apartment was a testament to order. My days were scheduled down to the minute. I had a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and a contingency plan for every possible deviation. I believed that worry was a form of preparation, that if I could simulate every possible disaster in my mind, I could somehow prevent them from happening in reality. My mind was not a place of peace. It was a tireless 24-hour catastrophe simulator. I wasn't living, I was preventing. My girlfriend, Anna, lived in the real world, a world of spontaneity and trust that I found both beautiful and terrifying. "Jonah," she'd say, "let's just drive out of the city this weekend. No plan." I would freeze. But what if there's traffic? What if it rains? What if all the hotels are booked? I couldn't just go. The unknown was not an adventure to me. It was an enemy that had to be conquered with meticulous planning. Then came the project of a lifetime, a competition to design the new city museum. This wasn't just a job, it was my dream, the culmination of everything I had ever worked for. And so, my catastrophe simulator went into overdrive. I worked day and night, not just on the design, but on all the ways it could fail.
I'm worried
The
the
judges
board will
hate my
reject it.
aesthetic. What if a competitor
they're
has a
gonna love
similar
this new
but
design.
better idea? What if the projector fails during my presentation? I built backup plans for my backup plans. I prepared answers to 100 imaginary hostile questions. I was sacrificing my sleep, my health, my relationship with Anna, all on the altar of preparation. She watched me wither, her eyes filled with sadness I couldn't understand. "You're not preparing to win," she told me one night. "You're preparing to lose in every way imaginable." I dismissed her fears. I believed the more I worried, the safer I was. The day of the presentation arrived. I was exhausted, but I was ready. I had anticipated everything, or so I thought. I walked into the grand hall, my portfolio in hand. And then, life did what it always does. It surprised me. 5 minutes before my presentation, an announcement was made. A key member of the jury, the influential critic whose taste my entire presentation was secretly tailored to, had a family emergency. He was being replaced by a young experimental architect with a completely different philosophy. In that single moment, my entire fortress of planning, my months of meticulous worry, turned to dust. All that anxiety had been for nothing. Life had simply changed the rules of the game without asking my permission. I stood up to present, my mind reeling. I tried to stick to my script, but the words felt hollow. I saw the indifferent face of the new judge, and panic set in. My voice faltered, my hands trembled. I failed. Not because my design was bad, but because my plan was too rigid to survive contact with reality. My obsession with controlling the future had made me fragile in the present. I didn't win the competition. I was devastated. I sat in my perfect apartment, which now felt like a prison of my own making. I replayed the failure in my head 1,000 times. I should have foreseen this, I should have worried more, I should have had a plan for the unplanned. Anna sat beside me in the quiet. She didn't offer condolences. She asked a simple question. "Jonah, think back to this time last year. What was the one thing that kept you up at night? The thing you were most worried about?" I had to think hard. A difficult client, I think. A fear of being laid off. It was all a blur. And did it happen the way you imagined? I shook my head. No, it hadn't happened at all. And even if it had, she continued, her voice gentle but firm, you would have survived it. You're still here. All that worry didn't protect you. It just stole your peace. It's a thief, Jonah. It steals your present to pay a ransom for a future that never arrives. Her words, so simple and so obvious, pierced through my armor of anxiety. I finally saw it. Worry wasn't a shield. It was a poison, a self-administered drain on my life force. I had spent years trying to prevent ghosts from appearing, and in doing so, had become a ghost myself. A few weeks later, I was still lost in a fog of apathy. Anna came home one evening and simply said, "We're leaving." She packed a small bag and led me to the car. "No plan," she said with a gentle smile. It was my worst nightmare, but I was too tired to fight. We drove, we hit traffic, it started to rain. My old anxieties began to stir. But then she turned off the highway onto a small country road. We found a tiny, unassuming inn by a lake, shrouded in the mist of the recent rain. We sat on a wooden dock, in the quiet. There was no plan, no goal, no outcome to control. There was only the gentle lapping of the water and the shared silence. And for the first time in as long as I could remember, my mind was quiet. I felt peace. I finally understood that the best moments of my life were not the ones I had perfectly engineered. They were the ones that happened when my plans fell apart. The spontaneous turns, the unexpected beauty born from chaos. I finally saw the difference. Planning is actionable. It asks, what can I do today? Worry is a loop. It asks, what if everything goes wrong tomorrow? One is empowerment. The other is paralysis. I had spent my life convincing myself that worry was a form of caring, but it's not. It's a form of fear. You can care deeply and still choose peace. You can be responsible and still trust the process. I started to think about the best things that had ever happened to me. Meeting Anna, that unexpected job offer years ago. None of them were part of my grand design. They were beautiful interruptions. They came from being open. And you can't be open when you're clenched in a fist of worry. You can't say yes to the unknown when you're terrified of what might go wrong. At some point, you have to release your grip. You have to trust that you'll figure it out, because you always have. Worry is just a habit, a pattern my brain got stuck in because at some point it felt like control, but it was an illusion. I was just exhausted, carrying a weight that wasn't mine to carry, trying to solve problems that didn't exist yet. And in the process, I was missing the only thing that was real, the moment right in front of me. So I started to practice a new question. Instead of asking, what if it all goes wrong? I started asking, what if it all goes right? What if I'm stronger than I think? What if life is actually working in my favor, not against me? What if this uncertainty isn't a threat, but an invitation? Life has always worked out for me. Not in the way I expected, not on my timeline, but I'm still here. I've survived every hard day. I've made it through every failure. I've adapted. I've grown. And I'll do it again. Whatever comes next, I'll handle it. Not because I've worried about it enough, but because I'm resilient. Because that's what we do. We figure it out. And when you stop spending all your energy on worry, life gets easier. Not because the problems disappear, but because you stop making everything a problem. You stop seeing every challenge as a threat and start seeing it as an opportunity. And that changes everything. Because when you're not afraid of the unknown, you stop hiding from it. You start living like someone who trusts themselves instead of someone who is terrified of their own life. I still work as an architect. I still make plans, but now I hold them lightly. I know that the plan is just the first step, not the entire journey. Recently, a young intern on my team was panicking before a presentation. "What if they hate it?" he asked, his voice filled with the same fear I knew so well. I smiled. I put my hand on his shoulder and said, "We can't control that. All we can control is the next step. A mountain is only overwhelming when you stare at the summit. But if you just focus on the path right in front of you, one step at a time, it's just walking." And that's the secret. The struggle isn't the enemy. It's the teacher, the fire that forges you. There will always be another mountain. That's the adventure. So I stopped wishing life was easier. I stopped resisting it, and I started trusting that I'll handle whatever comes. So take a breath, and as you exhale, let it go. All of it. The worry, the fear, the need to control. In the space it leaves behind, choose trust. Choose presence. Choose to believe that you're exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, becoming exactly who you're meant to become. You've got a life to live, and it's happening right now.